Today is the day where I get really pissed off, and some people get really pissed off at me. So many people love this movie. They think this is the best one since 2, or even maybe that it's better than 2. It was praised as bringing the series back to its glory days. And I think it's possibly the most underwhelming entry in the entire franchise. I never felt tension, there was no real fear, and there was such an over-reliance on the first film of the series. There are so many callbacks. It is sickening. The first scene with the nurse from the original is interesting enough. Joseph Gordon-Levitt makes an appearance as a hoodlum, and the kills are pretty okay, and it's pretty obvious that this Michael's a lot different from the Michael in 4, 5, and 6, due to the fact that they took the past 3 movies out of canon. But I totally understand the reboot in this situation. Trying to pick up the pieces from the 6th movie would be almost impossible. Donald Pleasance died, so did Jamie, Laurie was supposedly dead. There was just nowhere for it to go. So let's talk about Michael. He really isn't that intimidating. I think it all comes down to the mask. This is the first film where you can totally see his eyes through it. And I think that adds some personality to him that you just don't need for Michael. He isn't supposed to have any human traits, he's just supposed to be a shape. His mask has crazy hair now. Along with the eyes, there's a very, very odd expression on Michael's face. It's not really blank. It's just, it looks weird. It's almost comedic to me. And the life of the mask in this movie is really interesting, actually. They did use a CGI mask for one shot, and it was hilarious. It takes you out of the film so hard. Then here's a look at a couple of the other masks they were going to use. Some of them are just strange.
H2O would ultimately contain no less than 4 variations of the shape mask.
The mask controversy for Halloween H2O.
They purposefully didn't want it to look exactly like the masks in the other films. I know that there was some rights issues at one point where they didn't want to have to go through the estate to get the rights to the shape mask. So they said, give us a close approximation that won't get us into any legal problems.
And I don't even think this is the best one. I think they should have just used the Halloween 6 mask, because I think the Halloween 6 mask looks pretty similar to the first one. I think it's the most similar out of the Jamie trilogy.
Somebody stood up in the middle of dailies and went, that's not Michael Myers' mask. And all panic ensued, and then everybody started freaking out. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? The mask isn't right.
So the point of this film was really to return to the core of the franchise. Just Michael Myers and his victims, nothing convoluted or contrived in order to make that happen. And they totally achieved that. Nothing about the premise of the movie really screams ridiculous. It's totally plausible. But with all of that, they made an incredibly boring horror movie. And that should never, ever happen. I don't feel any sort of fear. When he creeps in the background of the guard shack, they just pull the same scare over and over again. It's exhausting.
Hey.
What's going on, baby?
The only really interesting part of this film is when Laurie finally stands up to Michael. And it really only accounts for 5% of the movie. So after the climax, Laurie steals the coroner's van in an effort to make sure Michael is dead. And at the time of filming, this was supposed to be the end of Laurie Strode and Michael. And I found it to be a fitting ending. Laurie beheaded Michael after driving him off a cliff. Laurie was decisive, and she was like the Laurie from the first film. She knew what she had to do. It was final and it was bittersweet. So, due to the overall boredom I felt, the lack of fear, and the Michael Myers mask, I'm gonna have to give this a 70 out of 100. Halloween Resurrection is what killed the series. If it had not been for one dedicated Halloween fan, there would not have been any other films for an insanely long time. And in 2002, 4 years after H2O, this movie was released. They explain away that Michael Myers escaped everything at that boarding school. And it is so contrived, it is so ridiculous that you automatically know that this movie is going to be shit. We had to reopen a great conclusion to Michael and Laurie for Laurie to just get killed. After killing Michael Myers in the previous film, Laurie Strode gets killed off in such a shitty way. She was the smartest person in the whole series, and she died because she tried to unmask her killer. It's garbage. Speaking of the mask, look at this mask. He no longer looks like a surprised 6-year-old. He now looks like an elderly man with gray-ass skin and eyes that are blue as fuck. After making Michael more grounded in the last film, they made him into a WWE personality crushing skulls. He's a super soldier again.
Watch me.
This movie gets me so heated because of how bad it is, and its disrespect to every piece of story that came before it. I can respect H2O for being a continuation in the theme of the first two, with a Wes Craven twist, but this film is just an abomination to the Halloween series. All the characters are weird or have just really strange lines that they're given. All of them are really into whatever major they are, and that's sort of their identity, like the culinary guy, the music guy, the psychology girl. That's their personality, their college major. Also, what's with all like the wolf howling noises that happen when Michael's around? It's really, really strange. So let's take a look at this sequence. I totally understand why Busta Rhymes is kicking Michael's ass. Because he was popular and he wanted to be the center of attention. It's just wrong. I can't get over how ridiculous this is. How did it make it through the script? Michael Myers can get stabbed, he can get hit with a fire poker, he can get shot, but all of it served the plot. This just served Busta Rhymes' ego.
Me? Huh? Fucker.
So let's fast forward to the ending, because this film drives me insane. And it's pretty obvious that I despise this movie. therefore making it even more upsetting to me that it tried to set up for a sequel. So Halloween Resurrection, on the basis of a ridiculous plot, terrible characters, disrespect to any of the entries prior to it, and ultimately its poor execution, it gets a 30 out of 100.